Tonight on Free Minds TV, Ian Bernard from nationally syndicated radio show Free Talk Live joins us to tell us about his experience in the world of broadcasting. Later, Mark Lathrop joins the show to talk about hemp and everything hemp-related. We're also going to be getting into this week's Downsizer Dispatch, the mailbag, and a whole lot more when we come back on Free Minds TV. Welcome back to Free Minds TV. I'm Toby Islin.
And I'm Nick Michaelevich.
All right, we have a full show to get to. We're going to be talking with Mark Lathrop from the New Hampshire Hemp Council and Monadnock Hemporium in the second half of tonight's show. But first, we have a special guest. Last week, we had Mark Edgington from Free Talk Live on the show. And this week, we have his other half, Ian Bernard.
His other half?
The host of Free Talk Live, nationally syndicated radio show that's on right here in Keene, as well as broadcast all over the country and on the internet at freetalklive.com. Welcome to the show, Ian.
It's good to be back. I think I was on the first promo episode of Free Minds TV that actually never aired like a year and a half ago. So
it's the first ever. When we first sat down, we didn't really know what was going on, but we were playing around, so you helped us kick off the show and get going on it. But welcome. So for a little bit of background, Mark didn't really talk about what Free Talk Live is as much. He was more talking about his own rant about sidewalks. So what's Free Talk Live?
Well, it's a show where it's an open format talk show where we invite anybody to call in and take control and bring up whatever topic is on their mind. It does tend to swing towards the issues of the day, and when it does, we don't approach things from a pro-Democrat or pro-Republican perspective like most talk shows do. We're a pro-freedom show. Freedom, every issue, every single time, no excuses.
All right. Well, you recently moved to New Hampshire in the last couple of years. Before that, the show was based out in Florida. And then you came to New Hampshire. Why the huge move?
The Free State Project. We moved as part of the early movers, as I think a couple of your crew members have also done. The concept, of course, is to move as many liberty-loving activists here to New Hampshire as possible in order to make a stand for liberty and fight against this bigger and bigger, ever-increasing government that we have, which, of course, you guys talk about a lot on the show.
That's right. And
well, I want to backtrack quickly. Ian, how did you get started doing Free Talk Live? What was your original inspiration and motivation to get started doing a radio show?
I was a big fan of talk radio in general, and I had already been in the radio business doing music radio down in Florida. And I realized that music radio, there's just no future there. So I wanted to shift over into talk, and there was a certain point at which the station I was on that just happened to flip formats to an FM talk station. And about a year later, I pitched a show idea to the general manager. I said, hey, we'll do it for free, and they couldn't turn that down. So that's how we got started.
So how have people been taking this in? An alternative talk show that you don't really hear when you turn on the radio. Most people who think of talk radio think of the bigger shows like Rush Limbaugh and stuff. How are people accepting the message of more of a freedom-oriented message on talk radio?
I think at first it shocks them. I think the first time they tune in, if they're used to hearing the pro-Republican Democrat stuff, they don't really know what to think. And then over time, as you continue to hear the consistent principled message of liberty, you get it. And I think a lot of people are responding in a very positive manner because what we're talking about makes sense. People interacting on a voluntary basis instead of trying to force their neighbors to behave in a certain way. The way I see it is if you're not harming somebody else, then you should be able to live your life as you please.
Yeah, and I think I've seen that too. When I first started listening to the show, you guys were on just a few stations, and now you're growing. You have new affiliates almost every couple of weeks. It seems you guys are getting on more stations, so it definitely seems like it is working and people are responding.
Right, well, we have 33 stations from coast to coast now. We've been in syndication for 3 years, been doing the show for 5, and we got on here in Keene a few months ago, as a matter of fact. We're on WKBK on Saturday nights from 7 to 10 o'clock. By the way, that's 1290 on your AM dial.
Now, you also released the show as a podcast. What is a podcast? If people want to listen to the show as a podcast, do they still have to listen to the commercials and stuff in your show? Or
one of the perks of listening to the podcast is we do cut out the live commercial breaks that you would normally hear if you were listening to the radio or, for instance, to our live stream. What a podcast is it's an alternative delivery method for for internet listeners. So instead of having to listen when we're live and make an appointment to tune in, you can download the MP3 files and then listen whenever you feel like.
And people can do that with our show as well.
Exactly.
Right. And it should be noted that Toby and I rotate on and off on Tuesday nights, where one of us is usually co-hosting. Unfortunately, you can't hear it in Keene because currently WKBK is not carrying weeknights.
Well, there's a way to fix that, which of course would be to contact WKBK, talk to Dan Mitchell or Bob Cox over there. That's the program director and the general manager, respectively. Great guys. They obviously support us to some extent, putting us on Saturdays, and I think it's probably they're testing the waters to see what kind of reaction they get. So if they get a positive reaction and people are calling them saying, hey, thanks for putting this locally originating, because we do it from here in Keene, this locally originating national program on your station, and I'd love to hear all 6 nights.
Right, and up until that point, that KBK hopefully adds you for the full 6 nights a week, people can go online, freetalklive.com, and listen to us. You can click on the Tuesday night shows, and you can download the whole thing right there and listen to it. Now, Ian, you moved here with the Free State Project. What have you been doing locally since you got here as far as activism goes?
Mostly I've been doing the show. I mean, that takes up the bulk of my time. I could just spend as many hours as I needed to doing show-related things. But alternative to that, I have set up a website called freekeene.com, and sometimes I'll call into the other talk shows on WKBK, and I'll mention freekeene.com, so people usually know it's me when I call in. And the purpose of freekeene.com is to be kind of a central clearinghouse. I call it the #1 pro-liberty blog in Keene, which I don't think there are any other blogs in Keene. But basically the idea is to have this central location that you can go to get whatever's happening in the area. So for instance, if you go to freekeene.com, you can get some of my calls to WKBK, you can get opinion pieces, you'll find out what's coming up as far as events, like I know you guys are going to be doing the Freedom Fest again this year. We announce those things at freekeene.com. And of course, Free Minds TV episodes, as well as Keene Weekly News, all posted at freekeene.com. So we've got video, we've got audio, we've got opinion, and interaction. You can also get onto a forum and you can talk with other people as well. So it's a way to bring people who believe in liberty and freedom or who just want to learn more about it together into the same place. And in fact, one of the recent additions at freekeene.com was I released an audio book of a fantastic book by Morris and Linda Tannehill, which was really influential to me. It's called The Market for Liberty, and I took the time to actually turn this into an audiobook and released it for free through freekeene.com. So if you like the ideas that you hear talked about on Free Minds TV and on Free Talk Live, I highly recommend you go to book.freekeene.com and download yourself a copy of the audiobook, or it's actually now available in a PDF file as well if you prefer to read it. It's excellent.
All right, Ian, I know that you have a live show you've got to be getting to. In just a few minutes here, you got to get out of here and get on to that. But if for more information, people can log on to freetalklive.com and also tune into the radio. And if someone doesn't get you on their talk radio, what should they do if they want to hear Free Talk Live?
That's right. You have viewers all across the country.
Right.
Call your local talk station. Talk to the program director, tell them you want to hear Free Talk Live. It's probably not going to change things that day, but the more they hear from people like that, the more they'll think about us when they're ready to make a change.
All right, Ian, thanks so much, and
Thank you.
have a good show tonight.
Will do.
All right, it's getting to your part of the show here, Nick. The law, no longer the law, the Downsizer Dispatch, where people can log on to downsizedc.org and let their reps in Washington know what they're thinking, even if they don't read too many of them. But every little opinion helps. What's this week's Downsizer Dispatch?
Well, this week for Downsizer Dispatch, it's really following up on what we brought you up to speed on last week, which was the Senate had an opportunity to vote no and not renew the Protect America Act, which allowed companies to spy on American citizens, the government to spy on American citizens without warrants, and it also granted immunity to telecommunications companies that turned over their records without warrants. Unfortunately, it's passed the Senate. All the Republicans voted for it.
Every single one?
Every single one, Sununu included. Some people thought we might get through to him. We didn't. But it couldn't have passed without the Democrats and the independents swinging the vote. And there were 19 Democrats who voted for this legislation, which is not exactly why I think they were elected. As well, there were one independent, Joe Lieberman, voted for to renew the legislation. But the good news is we can still kill it in the House. So go online, write to your representatives in Congress, in the House of Representatives. Let them know you don't want this passed. And write your senators. Write Sununu, write Greg. Tell them you didn't appreciate
You lost your vote
right.
next time around.
Right, they lost, and I think this probably made them lose my vote this time around. So
Definitely, and now we can at least count on one Republican saying no. Ron Paul, Dr. No, will probably be voting no on this bill.
Right, and if you want more information, I don't know if this bill's up on the website, but there's all kinds of bills like this that we have to keep up to speed on. If you want more information, go to downsizedc.org and join up. It's quick, it's easy.
The number one way I found to get these kind of bills, because sometimes they won't tell anyone that there's a vote until the day before, but Downsizer Dispatch will shoot you a quick email, 2 clicks, then you're notified. And eventually, I just got it yesterday, got this huge stack of stuff from John Sununu that I had written him, because they write you back eventually usually.
Yep.
So I got a huge stack of form letters back from him. So he got my message and it was counted. Not bad. That's downsizedc.org. All right, well, when we come back, we are going to be joined in the studio with Mark Lathrop. Nick, you sat down and talked to him. Everything about hemp. Mark's from the New Hampshire Hemp Council as well as the Monadnock Hemporium, and this guy knows his stuff about hemp. We'll be coming right back right after this.
With liberty and justice for all.
All right, class. Today we're going to be talking about the Middle East. Can anyone tell me what they know about Iraq?
The United States and Iraq were friends up until the 1990s.
There have been over 2,000 U.S. soldiers killed in this conflict.
And over 70,000 Iraqis have died, including innocent civilians and children just like us.
Over 20,000 Americans have been seriously injured in the war.
Let's not forget that it was our government that provided arms
and chemical weapons that eventually assisted in Saddam Hussein's pursuit of weapons of mass destruction. The United States will spend up to $2 or $3 trillion before this war is over, depriving us of future health, educational, and welfare benefits. Not only will our generation inherit this debt, but we might end up paying for it with our blood, too. With liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Free Minds TV. As always, I am Toby Island.
And I'm Nick Michaelevich.
All right, Nick, you sat down with Mark.
I did. I sat down with Mark Lathrop from the Hemporium here in Keene. He's also a member of the New Hampshire Hemp Council, as we've said, and he's very knowledgeable about hemp, both its uses and its legal status today. And he talked at length about why we should be able to use hemp in this country, what its benefits are, and what you can do about it so that we are allowed to produce hemp in the United States, because a lot of countries are. So let's move right into the video and see what Mark from the Hemporium had to say about hemp.
My name is Mark Lathrop, and I'm the owner-proprietor of the Monadnock Hemporium at 10 West Street in Keene, New Hampshire. And I am the chairman of the New Hampshire Hemp Council, and was just this year voted to the board of directors of the Hemp Industries Association. Have been forwarding and shepherding hemp legislation through the House of Representatives in Concord, working on getting into the Senate and getting a for real hearing in the Senate on the hemp bill.
Okay, so could you give viewers a little bit of background on what hemp is, how it's been used in years past?
Sure. Hemp is an agricultural fiber and oilseed crop that could replace or augment sustainable feedstocks for paper and building materials, or liquid transport fuels, or electric generating fuels, biodegradable plastics, cordage and fabrics. The seed is the best source of essential fatty acids and vegetable protein on the planet, so it's also a food source. There are a multitude of uses for fiber hemp.
So, but right there you got food, fuel, and clothing.
Absolutely.
Are some primary uses for the crop.
And building materials and paper.
Well, so it's got many uses. And
yes.
As I understand it, hemp actually is better for paper because it takes fewer pesticides than, well, not for paper. For paper, you don't have to cut down trees, obviously, and
right.
for clothing, you don't have to use the pesticides that cotton requires.
Right. Well, think about it for a minute. How much of your life is made from trees, oil, or cotton? All of those feedstocks, those three feedstocks, make up most of your life. And it's all unsustainable and highly toxic. The way we do business is not conducive to human existence on this planet. We need to be a more sustainable way of doing business and lower our carbon footprint.
And as I understand it, hemp has a pretty long history here in the United States. I believe George Washington grew it to some extent. And it has been used in years past in the U.S., hasn't it?
Yes, it actually has a fairly brief history in the United States compared to the rest of humankind. Hemp is the oldest husbanded plant known to man. Been used for subsistence farming forever.
Right, so it's a very well-established plant. But why we can't use it today in the United States? You want to give both of you know, what's the status with hemp in the U.S. today?
Well, hemp is legal to grow in the United States, but you need to get a permit from the Drug Enforcement Administration to be able to do that. And they just don't issue permits. It costs, the most recent figure I heard, the DEA will charge you a $3,400 application fee, put that money in their pocket, and then just sit on your application and do nothing with it. The North Dakota State University has been looking for a DEA license to do an agronomic research study for 8 years now. North Dakota was the first state in the union to legislatively pass legislation to allow their commercial farmers to grow hemp back in, I want to say, 99, and have been working for nearly a decade to put together the regulatory system that would allow their farmers to do that. Last year they licensed 2 farmers to be able to grow hemp in the state of North Dakota, and the DEA has yet to process those applications.
But it's important to point out that hemp isn't a drug. It doesn't have any narcotic qualities.
That's correct. Hemp is a member of the cannabis family. It is a separate strain of the same genus that produces marijuana. But any farmer understands that he can't plant the sweet corn too close to the cow corn because they'll cross-pollinate. The sweet corn would be tough and rubbery, and you wouldn't want to eat it. That same cross-pollination issue holds true with cannabis. If I had a hemp stand at my farm in Chesterfield, that pollen would travel on the wind, and it would frustrate outdoor marijuana cultivation in Keene. One of the best ways to shut down outdoor marijuana cultivation in this country is to allow the agricultural growth of fiber hemp. If Archer Daniels Midland, say, starts to grow hemp in the Midwest, that pollen would be everywhere, and it would frustrate and shut down outdoor marijuana cultivation east of the Rocky Mountains. But the DEA has no intentions of winning the drug war. They only want to continue to throw your tax money at it. And they know this cross-pollination issue, but will not say it out loud because 70% of what they do is cannabis eradication. And their budgets are predicated upon that. The Vermont State Auditor's Office back in 1998 looked at the federally funded cannabis eradication suppression program in this country, your tax dollars going to eradicating cannabis, and found that 99.28% of all cannabis eradicated in the United States is feral hemp ditchweed. Wouldn't get you high if you smoked the whole stand.
And so, briefly, what are you doing here in New Hampshire? You touched on it, but what specifically are you doing as far as legislation to try to get to allow hemp manufacturing growth in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, we've introduced legislation for a decade now. There's a state legislator out of, where is he? Henniker. No, not Henniker. Derek Owen is his name, a subsistence farmer, and a great guy. He has been sponsoring legislation at our bequest for 10 years now. We've passed the House of Representatives 3 times now and got into the Senate twice. The Senate gives the bill a hearing just to appease the process, but has no intentions of listening to any of the proponents' arguments. They simply take the law enforcement argument, and law enforcement comes in and testifies from a place of assumed credibility because they're wearing a uniform and a badge and a big gun, and then proceed to lie through their teeth about the reality of agricultural hemp, and that's what legislators go on. Last year, the governor held a powwow with the Senate before the bill reached the floor, and specifically asked the Senate not to let this happen. And I don't know what's up with that. We are all born ignorant. A little education goes a long ways toward curing that ignorance. I have little tolerance for what I call intentional ignorance, and that's what I see in legislators.
So aside from contacting the legislators, for final contact information, how can people get in touch with you or get in touch with anyone trying to get agricultural hemp legislation passed in New Hampshire?
Well, contacting legislators is key. A politician really doesn't care whether he does the right thing or not. He only cares whether he can get reelected next time around. And law enforcement lobbies legislators on a regular basis to not allow this to happen. They need to hear from their constituency because one person that writes a letter or makes a phone call represents 100 people that think the same way but didn't bother to pick up a pen. So if they get 10 calls from law enforcement, that represents 1,000 votes. They need to start hearing from their constituency that understand the concept. I know it sounds cliche, contact your elected officials, but it's vitally important in this case.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark, for coming
Sure
on.
thing.
And hopefully our viewers will contact their representatives and tell them to pass agricultural hemp legislation in New Hampshire.
Great.
All right.
All right, and so you can learn more about hemp you can contact your legislatures about it and let them know that you want hemp to be legalized, or you can log on to our website at freemindstv.com, click on the show content, and there's more links about hemp from there. All right, when we come back, Nick's got an article I haven't seen, I've got one he hasn't seen yet, as well as the mailbag, and more right after this.
Want more Free Minds TV? Log on to freemindstv.com 24 hours of the day or night for video archives of past shows and bonus videos, show content, and our audio podcasts. You will also find pictures, more information about the show, guests and interviews, Liberty links, the law, and of course, contact information. Reach us by email at fmtv@freemindstv.com or leave us a voicemail on our talkback line by calling 206-600-2982. All this and more at freemindstv.com.
Welcome back to Free Minds TV. As always, I am Toby Islin.
And I'm Nick Michaelevich.
All right, well, I've got an article that Nick hasn't seen here, get his reaction on it. This has to do with new ways of detecting people. Security checkpoints could do a full body scan and check your skeleton against the bone structures of known terrorists in a few years. A new patent issued on Friday covers a system that would scan some or all of your skeleton and compare it with a database of skeletons. The database would also pull up data such as your name, address, social security number, passport number, and other things. The worst part about this is that it could be used from a distance when people didn't even know it. The people who got this patent claim that it could be used for such stuff such as putting it on airplanes or even satellites to identify pretty much wherever people are. All they have to do is bounce microwaves off people. They claim it's safe. I'm not quite so sure, but bounce microwaves off people and pretty much know everything about them, who they are. And so this is a little bit scary to me, a little bit too Big Brother-esque. Do we really need the authorities to know everything about this? The worst part is they say this is to find terrorists, because then they'd be able to scan everyone's bodies and find the terrorists. Well, if you know which skeletons belong to terrorists, why are you letting them go? This is really just a way to police people, the good people of the world, who sign up and elect to have their body scanned. So it's really pointless. It's not good for freedom.
Right. I mean, my opinion on that is that they're probably, like you said, if they scanned a terrorist, they wouldn't let him go. So what they're doing is it's scanning the rest of us and comparing us for whatever reasons, and it gives the government almost total control to track us, which is unfortunate. And my story from freedomsphoenix.org, a woman by the name of Toni Vanelli had herself sterilized at the age of 27 to reduce her carbon footprint. Mrs. Vanelli said in part that having children is selfish. It's just a way to continue your genetics at the expense of the planet. When she was 25, she became pregnant, had an abortion, and at the same time asked her doctor to sterilize her. Her doctor refused, but did allow her boyfriend to have a vasectomy. Of course, she still wasn't happy with that. She wanted herself to be incapable of having children. So at the age of 27, she did find someone who would sterilize her. Her boyfriend gave her a congratulations card the day after the surgery, congratulating her on taking herself out of the gene pool. Mrs. Vanelli said it would be morally wrong for her to contribute to climate change by having a child.
Yeah, well, she should probably kill herself, too.
Well, I mean, this is one more. That's true. If people are too much of a carbon footprint to have put more new ones in the world, why not take some out? And this is more alarmism with global warming. I mean, I was watching the co-founder of the Weather Channel on TV last night. He was talking about how it was the biggest fraud he thought had ever been perpetrated. And the founder of the Weather Channel doesn't believe in global warming. I think it's a little bit early to start taking such drastic steps as sterilization.
I think it probably might not be a bad idea to maybe have less children. Maybe having a litter of 30 or 40 kids isn't a good idea. But I mean, having 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. I mean, it's natural. All right, Nick, we have mail here, but once again, the time, I don't think we're going to have time for it. We do love hearing from you guys. We wish we had more time to read your emails on the air. Hopefully, we'll schedule a little bit better next week so we can actually get some of these, because we've got a few backed up here. But that's just about going to do it for us. We'd like to invite the viewers and podcast listeners to log on to freemindstv.com for show content and a whole bunch of other stuff up there. There's pictures, there's archives, there's audio podcasts for people who don't have time to watch us live, but if you want to listen, maybe on your way to work or such, you can sign up for the audio podcasts and a whole bunch of more stuff up there. Show content, that's one of the things that I think that our site has the most of. If you want to question any of the articles or links that we've talked about, you want to review them a little bit more, just log on to the website, click on the archives, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and we're right there. And so it's all right there for you. All right, well, it has been Toby here with you.
And Nick.
And we're going to be coming back next week with an all-new episode. I think Mark from Free Talk Live is going to come back, give another keen eye on the news, let us know a little bit of a rant. Last week he talked about crosswalks. We'll see what he's going to be talking about next week. I'm sure it'll be exciting. And for the people who liked his show, the Keen Weekly News, it really should be exciting for them too, because he doesn't really do it on a regular basis anymore, but he will be on our show on a regular basis. All right, well, we're running out of time. Have a great night. We're going to be leaving you with a bit of police officers gone bad.
Defensive with me. You backed off me. I'm not your father. You hear me? I'm not your father. You give that attitude to your father. You give it to me, I'll smack you upside your head.
I don't have a father.
Shut your mouth. I'm talking.
Eric, shut up, dude.
Where are you from?
Dude, I didn't do anything.
Where are you from? Give me the skateboard.
Dude, man.
Sit down.
What the hell?
Sit down.
Dude,
Sit down. I'm not a dude.
I'm calling
Eric,
Mom.
sit down.
You're damn right you're calling your mother.
Dude, you want to take my skateboard? I didn't do anything, dude.
You call me dude one more time. Obviously, your parents don't put a foot in your butt quite enough, because you don't understand the meaning of respect. First of all, you better learn how to speak. I'm not man, I'm not dude. I am Officer Rivieri. Now, the sooner you learn that, the longer you're going to live in this world. Because you go around doing this kind of stuff, somebody's going to kill you.
I guess we're broken. What do you want me to do? I got nothing. Oh, we're on. Well, that sucks because I got nothing.